music going, everybody. What's happening?
The sun and the sand and drink in my hand with no bottle, no shoes, no shirt, no problem. Baby, let's get back. Take shots and flip-flops if you got 'em. No shoes, no shirt, no problem. No problem.
She rattled the eyes in my plastic cup. I said yes, man, fill her up. Tell me something good that I don't know. Cause this world's been kicking my behind. Life ain't been a friend of mine. Lately I've been feeling kinda low. And she looked back over her shoulder, pointed at the sign hanging up on the wall. Let's say everything's gonna be alright. Alright. Nobody's gotta worry about nothing. Don't go hitting that panic button. It ain't worth spilling your drink. Everything's gonna be alright. Alright. Alright.
So I nodded my head and said, that's for sure. Dropped a few butts in the mason jar. Left those good old neon vibes on me. And whatever monkey that was on my back, he jumped off just like that, right into the deep blue sea. And I looked back over her shoulder, thinking about the sun hanging up on the wall. Let's say everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. Nobody's gotta worry about nothing. Don't go hitting that panic button. It ain't near as bad as you think. Everything's gonna be alright. Alright. Alright.
There ain't no doubt it's gonna work out. Come on, sing it with me. There ain't no doubt it's gonna work out. Come on and sing it with me. Everything's gonna be
Good morning.
Good morning.
Everything's gonna be alright.
30 seconds left.
30 seconds. Countdown.
Don't go hitting that panic button. It ain't near as bad as you think. Everything's gonna be
8:29.
I'd get your wheels for me.
All right. Everything's going to be all right.
Absolutely.
Well, what's going on in the world today?
Good morning, Tampa Bay.
You're glad we don't have wildfires. How about that?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Good morning, Mr. Wilson. How are you?
Good morning. Great.
You're our featured guest star today.
He is.
Deborah was working on you and how you take care of listings. Today is Master Your Contract Day, and we deal with really 3 different contracts. We deal with a purchase and sale contract, we deal with a listing agreement, which is a contract, and we really deal with the MLS, which is a contract between the brokers. So we have 3 different contracts we're going to learn how to master. And Deb, how would you like to start?
Well, the reason why I asked Dick here is because he is incredible at getting his listings ready to get on the market, which is a great thing, but it also helps with cancellations. I am really, and I'm sure you are too, and are the agents, we really hate the cancellations, and we're getting a lot of them. And I think it goes to a couple different things. One is how you get your seller and your listing prepared to get on the market so it has a lesser chance of canceling. And that's why I brought Dick in, because he has some incredible stuff he does with his sellers and his listings. So, Dick, it's all yours.
All right. Thank you. Well, it's we have some wonderful tools to work with. You guys do a great job of training us to do the best job possible for our clients.
Well, thank you for following the advice, because a lot of people don't.
I don't know whether anybody's a hunter or not, but if you've ever had a chance of taking some beagles out to the woods to go hunting, when they open the gate and they come out, they hit the ground with their nose going 100 miles an hour. And when somebody calls up and says, we want to list their house, that's me. I hit the ground running and go after the business, even though it's a sort of an innocent, veiled, we're kind of thinking about it sort of thing. Well, guess what? If they're at that point and they've taken time to call me, you better be ready with everything. When you hit that door, I walk in, I've got all the listing paperwork completed except for the price and the date. I've got the marketing, the little yellow folder that we do. I've got it there. I don't pull it out. I'm there to visit. And during the conversation, the rapport building, talking about it, and you have the spa, you know what the properties in the neighborhood are selling for. So you're prepared. And that's how I start my meeting when I go visit the people.
So you pretty much act as if you're going to get it.
Absolutely. That's the reason I'm there.
That's right. Why else would they invite you over for pizza?
Yeah.
And they, you sit there and talk to them. They say, well, what do we got to do next? Well, that's when you pull out the paperwork and say, well, we just fill in the blanks here and sign it. And then once you get that out of the way, now then the work starts. Because you explain to them, I'm repeating myself. I'm sorry, everybody's heard this 100 times, but you only have one chance to make a first impression. And that is when Shannon shows up with his fantastic wide lens cameras and the virtual tour, you want the world to see that house where they want to live there. And, there's a lot of things that go into preparing for Shannon's visit to take his pictures. And I'm fortunate enough to have a stager that does a tremendous job of working with my clients to, it's kind of a nice thing to bring her in because she's the one telling them, well, this is a beautiful home. It looks nice and homey. Now we need to get the property ready for the world to see. And sometimes it's depersonalization. It's the, family pictures. It's the religious artifacts, all the things that they teach all the stagers, but she's the one doing it, not me. She's the expert. And I just kind of follow along and put stuff in boxes, and we're cleaning off shelves, we're moving furniture, we're putting stuff in the garage, all getting ready for Shannon, who's probably going to come within the next hour or that afternoon to take the pictures. And to me, that's the most important part of the process, is that part of it. And then also with the sellers, they need to kind of be inoculated to the process of what they can expect. First of all, I know you take good care of your home. Have a home inspector come in and go through the house and see what he can find and fix it. You can fix it yourself a lot of times. Get a handyman. Don't wait for the buyer's inspector to come through and you got a sale purchase contract that's going to cost you twice as much to get it fixed. So get that done ahead of time. So that's, and explain the different types of contracts, what they can anticipate, that type of thing. So that's all, getting the game started.
So I have a question real quick, because everybody's going to be emailing me after this, is who's your stager And how much does she cost? And it sounds like a really fantastic idea to do this.
Well, her company is Clutter Chasers. It's Phyllis Black. Phyllis is, she's kind of slowing down, so I'm not sure how much she's willing to take on right now. But you know, she, you know, if it's a big job, she has other people that she has contacts with that'll handle the big jobs. I've shown her a couple of places, and she just shakes her head, says, "It's too much for me. I can't handle it. Let's get these other people to call them in." And I think one of our other agents here in the office has been down that cycle with her. So, but
Well,
she
let's
does
get
a great
rid of
job.
there's staging, Dick, where they bring in furniture and stage a house, and you're just talking about decluttering. So you're gonna have her give advice to the seller, so you don't have to deliver the bad news. But she's not
Yes,
actually placing furniture and stuff, is she?
No, I'm sorry, staging to me means getting the house ready for the photographs. Decluttering is the big thing.
Right.
You know, getting, it's just little things like, you know, I don't have time to see pictures with wires hanging out everywhere behind a cabinet, or, you know, the bedspread is not made up properly and all the wrinkles out. Just little touches that when you look at the picture, it's nice. And I said, most of our people there do a good job of doing that. But I don't know how many times I look at pictures in MLS.
Yeah.
I said, why are these people in the business? I'm sorry. You shouldn't
Well,
be.
Dick, what's your opinion on this? Because I have a lot of agents that seem to let the seller control. I want this on the market today. And they'll run out and just tap cell phone pictures to get it on the market today. What's your opinion of that?
Well, you're falling on your sword, in my opinion. That's you know, you got you know, if you're going to trade in your car, are you going to drive it through a mud hole and take it into the dealership and say, "Hey, I want top dollar for my car"?
Nope.
Same analogy. So that's kind of the way I look at it. If you try to get it to look in the very best that you can. Some of them are not perfect, but you know, so I've spent as much as a week or 10 days getting houses cleaned out, cleaned up. You know, there's, you know, holes that need to be patched in the walls, things that, you know, need to be done to, you know, make it look as fresh as you can. You know, you can't, you know, and it doesn't cost a lot of money to do that.
How do you handle when the seller gets a little objection, gives you an objection to some of these things?
That's why I have Phyllis there, because she's very diplomatic, and she explains that, you know, once we get through, if you want to put that back over there, that's fine. But for the pictures, we need to kind of put this in the closet or what have you. Most part, I would say it's pretty much the people go along with what we recommend they do. Every once in a while, somebody will say, "That's not negotiable, that stays." Okay, it stays, but very, very rarely. Very rarely. People are understanding that we're there to get the best job we can, because I keep emphasizing, I go back to it, you only get one chance to make a first impression. And, you know, you got to clear off those countertops. You got to get your bathroom straighten up your towels and trash cans in the garage, and, you know, all the little things that a lot of times we look at them and don't think about it, but subconsciously, you know, you got somebody sitting in Dubuque, Iowa that's thinking about coming to Florida. You want him to, you know, you got two houses, one of them's a cell phone and one is Shannon's professional work. Which one are they going to be interested in? So
That's right. That's absolutely true.
that's kind of the way I approach it. So, and that's just to get us out of the chute. Then the fun starts when hopefully you get an offer that comes in within the next day or two, and then you sit down and you go over it with your buyers, and if it's a lender involved, I always want to make sure I have that pre-qualification letter from the lender. And my first phone call is to that lender and say, "Tell me about these people that you signed the letter for that you pre-qualified. How good are they? Are there any conditions? What has to happen?" Or the contract comes in, "Well, we got to list our home to sell, or it's under contract." Well, let's look at the contract. Let's go to the buyer's buyer and talk to their agent. You know, it gets pretty deep. You get into these dominoes. You know, that's why I have white hair.
Well,
Because
penny wise and pound foolish, right?
Yeah.
When they cut corners and make mistakes, that's when we're playing with big dollars for us and for our clients.
Absolutely.
And Dick, you're making my heart warm, because this is the stuff we talk about. Call the lender, have a discussion, find out what they've done, and you're actually doing it. That's why
Absolutely.
I'm here to tell, because I tell people to do it all the time. They don't listen to me. So I hope they'll listen to you.
That's why I brought him in today, Craig, because they don't listen to me either.
No,
Yeah,
it's,
stranger with the briefcase.
Yeah.
we have you know, we're single agents. We've got to keep that in mind. We have a fiduciary responsibility to our clients. You know, that's part of what we're supposed to be doing, is to look out for the best interest of our clients. And I take that pretty seriously because, you know, they're depending on me and I don't want to fail them, let them down.
How do you handle it, Dick, when there's like a trust or an estate involved?
First thing we do is get a hold of trust documents and let the title company review them. That's always one of the things that we look at if for listing a house and it's in a trust. I say, well, I need a copy of the trust so our title company can review it to make sure we don't have anything in there that could cause a problem at closing. And India does a great job of doing that.
She does.
And her underwriters as well. They're pretty responsive. It's like a day or two. You'll get a reading on that. You'll know what's going.
Yeah, you got to avoid all the surprises up front so you don't get hit at the end.
Absolutely. So less chance of cancellation on any end when it comes to with the seller and stuff. You know, this is so critical, you know.
And you get the Ladybird Trust, which is a nice deal because mom or dad can buy or sell the house. I got 3 kids on the trust. As long as they're living, that's not a problem. But if you list the house and you get it under contract and then tragedy strikes, mom passes away, you got 1 son in Europe, 1 son in California, and another one in Ohio. You got to round up the horses. Fortunately, they were all together at mom's funeral.
He just went through this.
That really does happen.
But those are the challenges we face. You know, sometimes people think real estate's easy. It's not. It takes a lot of work, and you know, it's constantly changing. It's wow. Keeping up with everything is a challenge. That's the big thing.
Well, so one of my sayings lately has been, you don't need to be good until you do.
Mhm.
And you don't know when you're going to need to be good. So you better be good all the time.
Yeah.
So it might be a perfect listing and a great price going to sell real quick, but does that mean you cut the corners just because it's a simple, easy deal? No, because you don't know what's going to happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And a lot of times that'll come back to bite you, and then you'll say, "Whoops."
So what do you do when you get a buyer that comes in that hasn't sold, that needs to sell their house but doesn't have it listed? Because we're seeing a lot of that with offers.
Well, in today's market, if you want to buy a house, the seller of that house is not going to be interested in talking to you because they want a buyer that's going to be able to close. And to me, that's not a qualified buyer unless they, if that's a contingency of their offer is contingent on the sale of their property. That's not a very strong offer for the seller to present an offer to.
And we're seeing a lot of that out there, Craig, which is because buyers are afraid that they'll be homeless. You know, if they list their house first and it goes under contract right away, they haven't picked a house, they're going to be homeless. So it's a tough situation right now for buyers to be in. But I think it just goes to educating the buyers and setting up good timeframes for the sellers to understand, if you want to do this and accept this offer, you're going to be extended out and it may or may not close, which is a good discussion to have with the sellers.
Well, I think the biggest problem we have is the lack of good agents that are cooperating with us.
Absolutely.
And a discount to the new ones. Our new ones are listening and learning from real experts like Dick, but a lot of new agents out there don't have any leadership or guidance behind them, and they're wasting time. They're writing crappy
Absolutely.
offers. They're writing, you know, even to show a buyer we've learned so much during this pandemic. You know, MLS now allows 100 photographs. What we teach is get together with them in a Zoom meeting, in a conference room, somewhere where you can be personal one-on-one. Go to the MLS, go to century21.com and go look at the houses and see what's out there until you're ready to buy. For an agent to drive an unqualified buyer around and set up showings and waste everybody's time doesn't make sense. And there's a weakness out there of agents not being strong enough to stand up to a seller or buyer and tell them what needs to be done. We're being paid as professionals to handle it professionally. And then we let them tell us how to do it. That's not right. Right? It's like me telling my lawyer. When my lawyer recommends something, I take his or her recommendation. I might discuss it with them a little bit, but in the end, I'm going to take their advice. Right? And that's the way I want all of us to act as an agent, is that the customer's hiring us for a reason. I mean, God, they could go to Jack Keller for $375 to put their house on the market and get no advice. So if we're not giving really, really good advice, we're not demonstrating any value, and we're not going to get paid.
Yeah.
Especially in this
absolutely.
competitive market.
Yeah.
Because people do have options.
You know, most of the time on those situations, we have to actually help the other agent understand, because they don't have the knowledge or skill sets.
Right.
And, you know, if you want your deals to get to closing, we end up training them a lot of the times along the way.
Do a
I know
little
you
hand
have.
holding, little
Lots.
hand holding.
Yeah, yeah,
But, you know, coming back to the buyer that wants to buy a house, but he's got to sell his, you know, and I've had a few of those. I said, well, that's fine. But first of all, we got to get your house listed on the market and get it under contract and get a solid buyer. I said, when we get to that stage, we can, you know, like you said, you can keep reviewing the MLS to have your list made up of, you know, here's 5 or 6 candidates to be ready to strike when the time is right. But the time's not right. And the one that you go after today, it'll be gone by the time you have your house under contract. So it's a moving target. And, you know, that's, you know, but that's the process. And, you know, it's hopefully they'll have their ducks in a row so that when they get their house under contract with a solid buyer, then we're in a position to make what I feel like is a quality offer to that new seller to buy their new home. And most people will go along with that. So, you know, unless
So they're properly counseled. Yes.
yes.
Yeah. And you keep your fingers crossed and hope all the dominoes fall when they're supposed to.
Dick, tell me your opinion about the as-is contract.
Well, you love it and you hate it. I take advantage of it because so many times I have people that are out of town and they may visit in the community here a couple of times. So I get to know what their feelings are and they have some confidence in me and seems like, and this has happened a number of times where, well, this is the one we want. Well, by the time we get there, it's already gone. And I said, you know, what we're going to have to do, I said, as soon as something comes on that fits what you're looking for, you know, if you got a friend here, I'll be glad to go out and show them the house. I can send you more pictures, go out, preview the house. I said, if all the dots line up, I said, let's get that contract in today. And if they accept our terms and conditions, we schedule the home inspection, which may be 3 or 4 days down the road. Buy your plane ticket, fly down here, and the day the inspector's there. So you do 2 things. You'll get to see the house firsthand and you'll get the report from the inspector. And if it turns out it's a bust and you don't like it, you got the as-is contract, you got 10 days, you can back out of the contract. I'm batting 100% on that. They haven't backed out yet.
That's good.
Well, they're invested in the process.
So that's a tool for me to give the buyer confidence that, you know, if it's a total bust, you know, he has that option to walk away, which he doesn't have with the other contract.
Have you used that clause we put into dot loop for the as-is contract when you counter a buyer?
When I've got a seller, yes, I put that in. That's a wake up call for him, and it works. It works, even though it's kind of, you know, it's all in the as-is contract. But when you put that paragraph that you crafted out for us to put in there, it gets their attention because it's down there in additional terms and
Don't mess with me.
Yeah.
I'm a ninja badass.
That kind of, I think it's a pretty powerful tool. Yeah. Anytime I got an as-is contract from my sellers, I put that in there and send it back to them.
Yep. Good.
Good tool. In fact, I've got one that we're closing next week. We went down that road. And of course, then the other part of it is the appraisals. I always make it a point when the appraiser's coming, I've got an updated SPA that makes darn sure that spa is going to show at least the contract price. Because sometimes these guys come in, they're not familiar with Sun City. They don't know what's around the corner and, different things. So I always print out an updated spa, and I might even print out the broker synopsis to go along with those 5 properties that are sold to help them out, make their job easier. In fact, when I'm closing next week, I was kind of holding my breath on because I wasn't sure it was going to appraise. Fortunately, it did. So far, so good.
So I've had,
Receptive? The appraisals are
I
receptive?
usually stay out of their way. I just point out things like, it's like it's got a new roof. I usually print out the building permit showing the roof was put on 2 years ago, or new electrical panel, or new water heater, or, the things that, and just kind of print them out and put a little package together. And I wait until they're ready to leave. I don't give it to them when they come in. I just let them go do their job. They got to do their measurements and take their pictures and take all their notes, and they're concentrated and focused on that. When they get ready to leave, I hand it to them. I said, this might help you out a little bit. Here's my strategic pricing house. I just take a minute to explain, the actives and solds and how we come up with what we do to price the house. And I said, this might save you a little time. And they're always appreciative of it. They take it. They don't hand it back to me and say, I don't need it. I have that. Nobody's done that to me. They always say, thank you, I appreciate it. So it's on how you do it, I think.
Yeah,
you just
absolutely.
reminded me of something. So the public now has so much knowledge. I've had 2 of my neighbors when I'm out walking the dog. There's a house when you leave my neighborhood on the left, 2 doors outside the gate. And it's a 1980s Apple home, but it's in really good condition. And the sign went up and a sold placard got plastered on it the next day. And so all the neighbors are looking it up, and they see me on the street and say, what's the deal with that house? And I better damn well know what the deal with that house is. It's sold for $386 a square foot. That's what it's
Wow.
under contract for. Oh, that's what we don't know. I had to explain this to the people in the neighborhood. Like my neighborhood's selling under $300 a foot. And for this older Apple home to be $386 a foot, I'm just telling the neighbors, I said, well, that's what it's, they can't advertise the sold price, the contract price. They can only advertise the listed price. So number one, we got to see what it actually contracted for. And number 2, it's got to appraise. And chances are it's not going to appraise the 386. But that's the craziness of this market. It's a very good condition pool home on the water with a new dock and all that stuff. It's insane.
Wow,
But
that is a big jump.
it's like you always say, what the buyer's willing to pay and the seller's willing to accept.
That's it.
That's what it boils down to.
Yeah.
I had a situation a few years ago where I had a very nicely updated condo. It's like we used to say, it's a drop dead gorgeous, one of a kind property. And we were probably, it's probably about 135 appraisal, I think. We had listed 150, we're under contract within a couple of days, full price. Came back to the appraisal, and they said, well, what are we going to do about this? And my seller said, tell them to find another place like this for $150,000. And that was the end of the conversation. They bought it.
Well, Dick, you are a gentleman and a scholar. I'm honored really that you're following the advice we give and it's working for you.
Well, I learn something new every day.
That's right.
It's
So tell me,
all-
how did you work through this pandemic? I think you've got your 12 closings so far this year, Right.
17,
17 closings so far this year.
16 and a half. That's what I
Yeah.
pulled yesterday, 16
Yeah.
and a half.
So how did you handle this pandemic?
Well, it's wearing my mask and using hand sanitizer and, was wearing the gloves, and I've been out with people showing houses, but trying to practice social distancing and that sort of thing. The activity on the showings has slowed down. There's not as much showing activity, but there's a lot of, the texting and email and all the things we have with the technology and the internet. We can do a lot of stuff just using the technology and staying in touch with the potential buyers, of which I've lost count. I've probably got at least 8 or 10 people that are potential buyers in some stage or form or fashion. They keep saying they're going to come down, but they're not here yet. I've had one situation where they're snowbirds. They live in Wisconsin. Their daughter and her husband were teachers at the New York School of Law, or professors or something. And they said, get out of New York. So they went to their home in Wisconsin back in March, and they're still there. So they get stuck here in Florida in their winter home. They called me the other day and said, we need something a little bigger. We went out and looked at a 3-bedroom, 3-bath condo in Kings Point, which they were interested in, but and she's a realtor up in Wisconsin also, by the way. And so we're sort of playing with some ideas right now. So there's a listing, nice waterfront home. They just want something bigger. So that's the fun part about this business. You know, it's there's always pieces moving around that you got to keep on top of.
Well, I've got a stat I want to expose to you. It's really a good stat, but in behind it is a bad stat. So we had Joy pulled production reports for me yesterday. We have 399 agents on our roster, and 185 agents had a sale in August out of 399. But those 185 agents averaged, created $2.4 million in open business, which is an average of $13,000 per agent per month, which if you annualize that is $160,000 a year. So on average, our agents that are working now are grossing $160,000 a year. And I don't want to talk about the 213 that haven't opened a sale last month, but they're making it really easy for the 185 to do multiple transactions because they're not working, right? And Dick, you're an example because you spend the time to make sure it's done right, and then it closes, and it's just the progressive steps along the way lead to a positive outcome. When you skip the steps along the way is when you get in trouble. And then you got, not only did you not get paid, but you did a lot of work and didn't get paid. If you're not going to get paid, don't do any work. But if you're going to do work, you better get paid for it. Right? Cool. Dick, any more words of wisdom for us?
Hey, listen, I salute you and all the staff every morning. I don't know where you get your energy, but Craig, you guys are phenomenal to get up every day and put this on for all the agents, and they need to be taking advantage of it. If they want to be in this business and be serious about it, all I got to do is to stay tuned in, and you know, it's maybe not, you can't do everything, but just pick one and go for it, because there's opportunities out there. And you know, the guy that shows up is the guy that you know, it's going to happen. You know, it may not be today, but you just, you know, you say next and move on to the next one.
Yeah.
You just got to stay at it.
Cool. Well, I got a couple more topics I want to talk. You're welcome to stay online with us or go do whatever you want to do. But a couple things I wanted to cover while we got some time with people here today. I want to recap a little bit. Yesterday, I did the class with Jimmy, and we talked about Zap. And Zap is just like Dick saying, if you do it right, it works well, right? So I'm going to show you an email so you know I'm not making things up. In my training folder. So Mike put out a post yesterday that said, tell me how much your rent is and I'll send you a list of how much homes you can buy. And then Jimmy and I did that as an example yesterday. And we talked about, you know, let's say I put that post out and somebody called me, how do I put them into Zap? And if you didn't see that, watch yesterday's class. It's a really simple 7-step outline, which I didn't type the notes on for. A 7-step outline of what you do. You log into Zap, you add a contact and do this and set up a campaign and invite him in. And it was a really good thing. And I made the example of putting this post out and getting leads. And so Catherine Pyle, who's a new agent, says, hello, Mike. I just want to let you know that I posted the tell me how much you're paying in rent post on my Facebook, and I've been receiving messages nonstop. It's keeping me super busy, and I have 2 solid leads from it.
Great.
You know, I mean, I'm telling you, we every day, I don't know, you know, we wake up and say, what are we going to talk about today? And some nugget comes out of somewhere that if somebody takes action on, there's a potential transaction, right? And that's my whole thing is awareness gives you flexibility, flexibility gives you options, options give you power. So if our agents are looking at stuff like this, you know, take advantage of it. Did anybody else, I'd like more interaction. Did anybody else post that and get some leads? Let me know with a hands up or something. This is something else that came across my box yesterday, which I didn't know about. Nancy Conley got an email from Century 21 Global, just saying, Century 21 Global, congratulations, your listing at 1412 Blue Water Drive, Sun City Center, Florida, is now live on Century 21 Global. I've never seen this before. Are you guys getting this? Every
I've
time
never
you get a
seen
listing?
that. Wow.
So it might be a new thing. It's now live on century1global.com, the international homepage for all Century 21 listings with millions of visitors every year. Century 21 Global allows buyers from across the world to find your listing, view listing details. Now, what would you do with this?
I'd show it to my seller first.
There you go. I mean, so
Yeah.
it's little tiny steps along the way. You know, it's a pain in the butt maybe, but I think your seller would be impressed by that. Hey, look, Century 21 just posted, and what a beautiful picture. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
look at that. That's just, it's
Yeah.
really just a good looking shot. So little things like that. Oh, we had a chat here I didn't answer yet. Sorry.
What an amazing thing.
Yeah, oh, it's the first one. Yeah, I haven't seen it before. You might be the only one who's received it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great thing too, because we're in Tampa and right now we've got people coming from all over the world to be here because we're affordable.
Yes.
And I think that we are in the catbird seat right now for the country to be, you know, getting more people from across the world here.
So here's another one. A question came across. Interesting, since we're mastering the contract. An agent asked me this morning if the fact that the seller has not initialed line 1 of the contract, adding another buyer, would the effective date would affect the effective date. I wouldn't think so, but I want to be sure. So what do you think about that? So a seller and a buyer signed a contract, and then the buyer wants to add another person on the contract.
This is also a short sale that I'm aware of. That's been, the contract's been submitted to the lender.
Okay, well, my point is, when the seller and buyer came to agreement, the contract was executed and the effective date was set. If the buyer wants to add another person on, that becomes an addendum to the contract. It does not affect the effective date, right? So I just want our brains to think in that circle, right? The contract creates the effective date. A modification to the contract requires an addendum to change, but it does not move the effective date. I just thought that was interesting. I had an agent over the weekend call me with a very interesting scenario. Oh, Lauren said she got that on her last 2 listings. That's nice. That Global Flower. Okay, I get a call. You guys really crack me up sometimes. I usually get a text. Can I call you? Just call. I get a text. Can I call you? Yes. I didn't say yes. I just called him back. And he's got a listing in St. Pete. It's $600,000, and it's been on the market since January. What does that tell you? Kinda.
Maybe a little overpriced.
If something's not, the market's rejecting that house for some reason. So we started talking about the strategic pricing analysis and what houses in that neighborhood are selling for. They're selling for $240 a square foot, which is a pretty nice neighborhood. It's a high price per square foot for a house, but that's what they're selling for. And this house at that square footage is worth 600 and something thousand bucks. And so we're talking and talking and talking, and I'm just learning about this market because I don't really know much about it. And it turns out we had 3 offers in the first month between 500 and 550, which the seller rejected. So what does that kind of tell you?
The
The
buyers,
market likes 500 to 550 and it doesn't like 600. And then I started asking better questions. And I said, does our house have a pool? And the answer was no. Does the competition have a pool? The answer was no. Okay. What does the competition have that we don't? Oh, well, the competition has a garage. Our garage has been converted. Oh. So we have a 2,400 square foot house that doesn't have a garage. So we really have a 2,000 square foot house with a converted garage. So I want you guys to be able to think this through. The garage is not 240 bucks a foot. The 240 bucks a foot is for the 2,000 square feet with a garage. But this doesn't have a garage. It's got a converted garage. So the question is, what does it cost to convert the garage like it was done? And it's not 240 bucks a foot. It might be 30 grand, right? So now you take watch this, watch how the math works when you do these circular references, right? Now you take a 2,000 square foot house at 240 a foot is 480, right? And then you take 30 grand to flip it over, put some carpet and AC in it, add 30 grand to 480, and what do you add? 510. And the market said what? 500 to 550? That's tough, right? So you see the rationale behind that? The square foot of the garage is not the 100% value of the square foot for the neighborhood. It's actually a deficiency because all the neighbors have garages. Of course, I'm a garage guy, but not everybody keeps their cars in the garage, so they convert it to a useful space. That's fine, but you're not going to get my house. My garage is under my house. My house is 300 bucks a foot. My garage is not. I can't charge 300 bucks a foot for my garage. It doesn't have plumbing. It doesn't have carpet. It doesn't have tile. It's a garage. It costs less. So I wanted to have that conversation too. Just logical common sense. A house on the market in this economy from January till now that hasn't sold, there's a problem with it. And it's generally there's no problem that can't be fixed with a price correction, right? Every house will sell for something. So sometimes you got to slice and dice. And I like when I slice and dice in a certain way, and then it works out because then I found the number. So we took 2,400 square feet, went down to 2,000 square feet, got the price, added on what it would cost somebody else to take a garage and convert it over, add that to the value, and then we came up with what market price. So I haven't heard the result of that, but I hope the agent was able to communicate that message to the seller. And if we get that listing down to below 550, guess what's going to happen? A commission will be earned. We should have this conversation a long time ago. If you guys ever need help running through situations like that, that's what we're here for.
So on that garage, if it wasn't permitted, that would still be another
Yeah, that's a whole other
obstacle.
question. Yeah.
That would be a major obstacle too to overcome if they didn't permit it when they finished it out.
Celeste just wrote in and said, we shared our global listing with one of Aixa sellers in Brandon, and they were impressed and very complimentary, whatever. So yeah, so that's good. So Celeste is Aixa's assistant. They got the email from Section 21 Global. They forwarded it to the seller, and the seller was super impressed. So I'd recommend you all do that. Another one for Dick to handle. All right, Deb, our main topic for today was how to keep deals from canceling. Right, so I want to cover some of these more onerous steps, but I have these little things I come up with. I don't want to be a jerk, but none of us are doing that many contracts except for the staff, right? Dick, on a really good month, you're doing 5 or 6 sales, right?
That would be my best month, yeah.
Right, and there's 30 days in a month. So 20% of the days you're doing something technical. So I'd like you to spend a little more time up front, like Dick's talking about, staging the listing, checking the title, getting all the little bumps out of the road before you go live on your listing. Same thing with a contract. Sit down, critical date, do the critical date timeline. Guys, these are 3 or 4 minute tasks. And then calendar those items, or use a PA or transaction coordinator or somebody to do it for you. Because a prior proper planning yields positive results, right? And having these direct conversations, Kat and I did a class last week, I think, where we talked about texting and emailing and how ineffective it is. I mean, I get it. A lot of agents are not responsive to anything but that. But here's what I would suggest. Text them and say, I need to talk to you. Email them, I need to talk to you, right? Kind of like I joked earlier, people will text me and say, can I call you, right? I don't care how you do it. The goal is a telephone conversation to have these things worked out. So critical date timeline on a contract, calendared events shared with the seller, put an advance notification on your calendar that says, 2 or 3 days before it's due. So many little things can be avoided by plotting out the course before we get started.
Yeah, I would share that too with with co-broke agents, that critical timeline.
And well, you
It's
can't share with
working.
their buyer, but they can.
Yeah, because a lot of times they end up missing timelines and dates just because they do. They're not trained enough, and it keeps everything together and everything going smoother.
And remember, I said it doesn't matter if you're good until it does. So let's take it out, and there's a major problem, right? And it goes all the way to a trial. That's how big a problem it was. How do you look as the professional when you did all this diligence, right? I've got a case right now. I've told you about the one that my daughter missed the deadline for 5 p.m. because it fell on a Saturday or whatever. So we've got the E&O company involved, and Jessica has put together a file of all the correspondence that we have done. It makes the buyer look like an idiot. I mean, he just was a jerk. He was constantly reminded days in advance of all the stuff. The critical date timeline was in there, was shared with him, was communicated. He knew all the dates of everything well in advance. So if this ever does get to trial, which it never will because we'll mediate it out, he's going to look like an idiot, and his lawyer's going to have nothing to stand on because Jessica had done everything right along the way. Now, she didn't have to. What if this had been a simple deal and it closed real fast and no problems came? It's the habit of getting it done right from the beginning that will protect you in the event that it becomes a problem, which most things don't become a problem. But when it does become a problem, you want to have it done.
She documented everything too.
Oh, yeah.
Email. I mean, that is, a lot of agents forget that. They think texting is key, and it's not. You need to be on email, like what you and Kathleen covered a couple weeks ago.
The E stands for evidence. It's not electronic mail, it's evidential mail.
Absolutely. And when you need it, you need it.
And just so you guys know, our Gmail program, the c21be.com, that is hack proof, right? It's privatized, it's stored. You could delete all of your emails and they're still there. I mean, as a company, we have to do things like that to protect ourselves. So we've got every email that was, they're all backed up on servers. We don't look at them, but if we need to find something, we've got it. Right?
Yeah.
And if you're using your,
Yeah. Yeah.
if you need it, we got it. And you never know. It might be 5 years from now, you get a lawsuit and all of a sudden, we deleted all those emails or they crashed or whatever and they're gone. No, we've got everything backed up. So that's important, right? So your agents, the agents that are running around using their Gmail and Yahoo and MSN accounts, they don't have anything like that.
Oh, gosh.
And we talked about last week too, we talked about the language in our email signature that's automatically put on every one of our emails. Specifically says in that language that nothing in this email shall be construed as a contract unless it's signed by both parties, but that's not important until it is, because judges have ruled that emails back and forth between parties are contractual. But ours would not be because it's in that language, and that was required by Cardis Corporation, that we have to use that language in our email. And I had no idea we were going to allow to do that or were able to do that, but we were. So that's cool stuff.
That makes us a lot stronger too, when it comes to negotiating contracts.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what else can we do to keep a contract from canceling? Critical date timelines, 1. Talking to the loan officer, 2. That's probably a big one. Preparing for the appraiser. I mean, Dick, that's a lot of work you did. Updating a spa. What agent does that? A good one.
A good one.
Right. And you're at 17 closings so far this year in a pandemic, and you've got 9 or 10 hot buyers in your pipeline right now. So you're going to crank out 25 plus. Yeah, you probably could.
Yeah.
It's probably because you're so young.
That's
The,
it.
the other thing that I failed to mention was the Global Home Warranty Program. I always present that and the benefit to the seller, where they can take out coverage for $75
Mhm.
and offer a program to the buyer, which is the marketing advantage for the buyer to take comfort that, hey, you got 12 months coverage for your appliances for the next 12 months. And a couple of times my sellers have had to take advantage of that program because the air conditioner died or the refrigerator quit working or dishwasher, and Global Home Warranty took care of it. So
Yeah, if
that's
you can't sell a free home warranty that you only pay for if you make a claim, there's a problem.
Yeah, yeah,
Problem is you didn't present it, right? That's really it. Because that's so easy. It makes perfect sense. I'm going to put a warranty on your house for limited coverage, but you have to agree to buy the dumbed down cheap version for a buyer. And then you let the buyer upgrade to the expensive version for a couple $100 extra. But now they got elite coverage on their property, which is just, it makes all the sense in the world. But I think, Dick, you're right. It starts with the seller offering it to the buyer. Because a lot of us agents are afraid to ask for a home warranty in a buyer side contract because the seller will strike it or accept another offer that didn't request it. We got to get off the penny wise and dollar foolish thing, right? Most people aren't broke. And to provide a home warranty, to me, makes all the sense in the world. When I buy a high ticket item, I buy the warranty. When I buy a low ticket item, I don't, right? Is a car worth more with a warranty on it?
absolutely. Yeah.
What did Lexus do? Certified pre-owned Lexus.
Oh,
That took a used Lexus and made it more valuable because they gave it the service.
Yeah.
Right. And that's how we came up with certified pre-loved homes, which is basically, Dick, what you've been doing. Right.
Yep, more or less. Yeah.
pretty much. I think it's really important too to get a, you know, we were talking about trusts and wills, but even on a regular seller, have the title company run the title searches ahead of time. So we know there's no bumps in the road. I mean, and the title company, Paramount's been awesome with this. I don't even think they charge until closing on that now.
Right.
And so, I mean, why wouldn't we do something like that? Because I think it just, the more ammunition we have in our belt, that we have everything prepared, less chances of cancellation on everything. And because it gives that buyer peace of mind. This is all about, and what you do is all about giving the buyer the peace of mind when they make an offer on this house. So if something comes up, well, you've done all this, I'm not going to be concerned as much about what we find.
Right. Well, you know, I've been telling you the saga of my neighbor. So my neighbor over here, I told you there's cracks in the stucco that I can see from 3 different windows on the second floor, which is concrete block on the first floor, frame on the second floor, and it's got relatively deep cracks that he knows about because some of them have been touched up. So I saw his agent's assistant the other day, and I said, by the way, have you seen this? She goes, yes, he told us about it because I had told him about it. They got an estimate, $33,000.
Wow.
That's something I would have said, seller, we're not going on the market until that's fixed, right? We can disclose that there was some stucco issues and we had it replaced, and that's fine. But now the buyer is going to see it and have doubts. The house across the street from me has this 30-year-old homes now. It's got the stuccos wavering. It's Chris Martin's house, Deb.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You can see it. It went on the market. Good price. I helped her with the price. It's the woman who, it's Chris's niece,
Yeah.
niece, who has the listing. And she called looking for help. I helped her with pricing and stuff like that. It hit the market, it went under contract. Guess what? They canceled after inspection, right? I told her to get an inspection. She didn't do it. So this is the stuff that keeps things from, it matters to me, you know. We pay the staff well. The staff works on every deal, whether it closes or not, which means when it doesn't close, the work the staff expended gets no reward, just like for you, the agent, right? So every time we have a deal that falls apart, it's wasteful. So that's why I harp on doing the tougher things, and not to make light of it, Dick, because I hope you didn't take it that way. If you're doing 5 or 6 deals, you're a rock star in a month, but you still have 25 days that you didn't do anything as far as writing a contract. So you can't.
Effectively.
Don't put that in my quotable words. But to spend the extra hour, and that's probably what we're talking about, the extra hour counseling the buyer, counseling the seller, doing the strategic pricing analysis, doing the staging, you know, running the stuff by the title company, piece of cake. I mean, spend that extra hour, and that's really it. If you want to keep your deals from canceling, follow the systems.
Yeah.
Get you back to my checklist. Okay, well, that's been all I had on my list to cover today. 9:20. Very cool. Well, we got some good tidbits today. Dick, thank you. You're a gentleman and a scholar. I really appreciate you.
I enjoy every morning because every day, if everybody's listening, which they should be, there's good stuff comes out every day. And I always pick up something that, it's the way you talk about things, the way you describe things. It's like the market's not supporting that price, little nuggets
Little
like
tidbit,
that.
right.
And it just, it's a new way of saying the same thing. You're overpriced or,
Better way of saying it.
I appreciate you pioneering a new price for the neighborhood.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
All righty, guys.
It
All
all
right.
helps.
Thank you very much. Mr. Puma, we can shut down this if you're still watching, because Mike sets it up so we can YouTube, because I can't do it here. But
Thank you.
thanks